Hello and welcome. My name is Mark. This is Riffle Shuffle and Roll, and we are celebrating Rook Month here at the channel. If it's your first time visiting the channel, be sure to hit subscribe and the bell so you're notified about new games every week. April has been dedicated to the 57 card deck that George Parker designed back in 1906 with a lot of help from his wife, Grace Parker. In fact, depending on your source, it could be said that this was actually really Grace's project. And while most people might see Rook as a commercial game that can be purchased at your local store for about $5 or $6, it was actually designed as an alternative card system for people to use to play all kinds of different games. George and Grace identified that there was a whole group of people not playing card games because they did not want to associate themselves with the 52 card French deck, because of its connections to gambling, or because of the face cards on them, or because of its loose connection with tarot reading. So the two devised the 57 card Rook deck. It has nothing but numbers, and the only picture involved is on the bird card, the Rook. The Rook was actually a design pick by Grace herself. Along with the cards, George also published little booklets with rules to all kinds of different games that really took advantage of the 57 card deck. Having colors rather than suits, having 14 cards per color rather than 13, and of course having those count cards designed into the deck. The 5s, the 10s, and the 14s having their own point value can really change things up. So with all that in mind, today we're going to be taking a look at a game designed by George Parker called Over the Top. This is a card game for 2 players in the Trick family. Its key features and mechanisms include a trump color, bidding, and trick taking. The objective for the round is to capture as many count cards as possible. The objective for the game is to be the first player to score 200 points or more. For a detailed write-up of how to play this game, head over to GameRules.com. Link down below. In order to play Over the Top, all you need is a standard 57 card Rook deck and a way to keep score. Remove the 1s, 2s, and 3s from each color and remove the Rook card. Those cards will not be needed for the game. You are left with a 44 card deck ranging from 4 to 14 in each color. Begin the deal by dealing 10 cards to each player. This first set of 10 cards makes up the player's hand. Normally in a game, you're not going to show each other your hands. The player's hands will be kept secret. Next, you deal each player 5 cards face down. These 5 cards will be placed in a row, and they are kept face down. This row of cards is referred to as the player's battery. So after the first row has been formed in the battery, the dealer deals out 5 more cards to each player. And these cards will be placed face up on top of each of the face down cards. So let's get those dealt and then we'll get it set up. So at this point, each player has a 10 card hand and a 10 card battery, 5 cards face down, 5 cards face up. The remaining 4 cards make up what's called the nest. In other card systems, this is referred to as a kitty or a widow, but in Rook games, it's referred to as the nest. This is placed aside and will come into play later on. From this point on, deal will alternate each round. Players will bid based on how many count cards they believe they can take. 5s, 10s, and 14s are all count cards, meaning they have a point value. 5s are worth 5 points, 10s are worth 10 points, and 14s are also worth 10 points. The winner of the bid gets to determine the trump color, and they'll get to exchange cards with the nest. Bidding begins with the dealer, who we'll say is here at the bottom of the screen. The dealer must bid at least 50, and they can bid more if they want. After the dealer bids, the opponent has the option to raise the bid or to pass. If they choose to raise the bid, it must be by a number that is divisible by 5 or 10. So if the dealer bids 50, the opponent must bid 55 or 60 or 70. Their bid must be higher and it must be divisible by 5 or 10. Bidding continues until one player passes. When that occurs, the player who bid the highest wins the bid. For this example, we're going to say that the dealer won the bid. The first thing the bid winner does is determine the trump color for the round. Dealer determines that red will be trump. Then, the bid winner gets to pick up the nest and exchange up to 4 cards. The only rule they must follow here is that count cards are not allowed to be placed into the nest. And if there are any count cards in the nest, they must be absorbed into the player's hand. The dealer removed all of the red cards from the nest and added them to their hand. And then the cards that they put back into the nest are placed aside, removed from the game, and they are not used. They will be shuffled back to the deck for the next round. I just want to make a quick note that when the player exchanges cards with the nest, the exchange must happen with cards from the hand. Players cannot exchange cards from their battery. Each trick will contain 4 cards. The player that lost the bid gets to lead first. When the player leads the first trick of the game, the card must come from the player's hand. This player chooses to lead with the yellow 10. This is an important card because it's also a count card, so it's actually worth 10 points. From this point on, all cards played must match the color that was led if possible. If a player is unable to match the color played, they can choose to play any card from their hand. So the player led with a card from their hand. Now the following player must also play a card from their hand. Here they choose to play the yellow 8. At this point, the player who led has the trick. Now that both players have played a card from their hand, play returns to the player who led the trick. They now play a card from their battery. Again, they must follow and match the color that was led. So they can choose to either play their 13 or their 14. They're going to go ahead and throw out the 14 yellow. So this player played from their battery, and play returns to the other player who will now also play from their battery. They must play their 5. They have no choice. The highest card in the color that was led, or the highest trump card, takes the trick. So for this one, the 14 takes it. And this was actually a really good trick for that player because they got 3 count cards out of the deal. They got 25 points for capturing this trick. Any tricks captured are placed to the side face down. Any cards that are exposed face down are now flipped face up. And the player who takes the trick leads. It's important to pay attention and remember where the card that takes the trick came from. For that previous trick, it was a battery card that captured it. So now, that player must lead the next trick with a card from their battery. If they would have taken the trick with a card from their hand, they would have to play a card from their hand. They took it with a card from the battery, so they choose to lead the black 14. The player following must play a card from their battery. They're going to go ahead and throw out the black 6. Play goes back to the one who led the trick. They now play a card from their hand. They do not have any black cards, so they can play any card they wish. They're going to go ahead and just try to play low and count on their high black card to take the trick. The following player must play from their hand. They do not have any black cards. They may play any card they wish, and they are going to go ahead and take the trick with a low trump card. The highest trump card will take the trick, and that is the red 4. Face down cards are flipped face up. The player who takes the trick leads with a card from the location of the card that took the previous trick. The last trick was taken with a card from this player's hand, so now they lead with a card from their hand. They're going to lead with a red 14. The following player must match the color if they can, and they are going to throw the 9 because they don't want to give up that point card. Play continues, and they throw a card from their battery. They're going to go ahead and throw a point card, knowing full well that they are going to take the trick. This is a good way for them to capture 5 points. The next player completes the trick with a card from their battery. They don't have any red cards in their battery, so they can play the green 4. The red 14 takes the trick. Face down cards are flipped face up, and play continues. Once the final trick has been played and captured, it's time to tally up the score. Remember, players do not get points for tricks captured. Instead, they earn points by capturing count cards. 14s and 10s are all worth 10 points each. 5s are worth 5 points each. These are the count cards that the dealer captured. The dealer earned 65 points for the round. Here, player 2 captured 30 points worth of count cards. If the bid winner fails to meet their bid, they earn 0 points for the round. Their opponent's points are doubled. So in this example, if the dealer failed to meet their bid, player 2 will have earned 60 points. After the score has been tallied, collect all of the cards, including the cards from the nest, shuffle it up, and deal. Remember, deal alternates each round. Continue playing rounds until one player reaches 200 points or more. That player is the winner. Before you go, I want to invite you to take a look at all the links I've got down below in the description. They will take you to my Board Game Geek page, my Reddit page, the Traditional Card Game Discord channel, and GameRules.com. All right, well that's it for now, and until next time, keep on playing.